Taho. Howdy mo, welcome to Checkpoint on RNZ National. Kei te maira, e hoama, he kōrero kei te haere, he kaupapa kei te karatiwa. Tonight, steel dumping and the politics of responding to it when it's done by our second largest trading partner. And speaking of trade diplomacy, we've got to our reporter who's with the PM in Indonesia. 3 dead in a terrible crash on the desert road. Our reporter has just spoken to police. Russia, doping and the Olympics with a major report just hours away. We look at what's at stake here. Trailers overboard, a wild old journey across Cook Strait. 3 police officers shot dead in Baton Rouge. Fergal Keane reports from Turkey. Lydia Ko wins again. And the man they call the Tongan Bear tells us about his journey to rugby's quarterfinals. All of that and more in the next 89 minutes. But first, Katrina Batten with RNZ News.
Kia ora, good evening. The teenager accused of fatally stabbing another in the neck with a smashed beer bottle has been found guilty of manslaughter and not guilty of murder. Vincent Angine Skeen, who's 18, had admitted using a beer bottle during a fight with Liv Tippany on Halloween night in 2014, but had denied ever intending to kill. Several members of Liv Tippany's family wept before leaving court. Skeen's lawyers said their client had acted impulsively, but the Crown said Skeen had literally gone for the jugular and struck Mr. Tippany 7 times. The fight happened in front of numerous witnesses, including onlookers on the balcony of a nearby apartment block. Skeen will be sentenced in August. A passenger on the ferry where 2 trailer units crashed through the barrier and into rough seas has described the Cook Strait trip as crazy. Bluebridge has launched an immediate investigation after the refrigerated trailers fell off the Straitsman ferry from Picton to Wellington this morning. Bluebridge says the trailers, which were carrying chilled goods, including pork, were lashed for a storm and it's unclear why they moved. They weren't attached to a truck cab. French tourist Severin Delacour says it was a frightening ride and people were sick.
The waves become bigger and bigger. At the beginning it was funny, but after the waves became bigger and bigger, so everybody felt sick and threw up, and the boat went up and went down. The ferry was on this side, maybe 45 degrees.
Severin Delacour says it was the worst ferry ride he's been on. Maritime New Zealand has issued a navigational hazard warning. A hunter who was missing in the Blue Mountains near Balclutha since Saturday has been described as being in remarkable condition despite his ordeal. A police search and rescue team found the hunter this afternoon after he became separated from his hunting party on Saturday. Constable Murray Hewitson told RNZ Checkpoint it was the man's first time hunting in that part of the country. He'd recently moved from the North Island to the South Island and was not familiar with the weather or the terrain. Mr. Hewitson says for what he's been through, the hunter is a lucky man. Regional security and the threat of terrorist attacks will be high on the agenda when the Prime Minister meets his Indonesian counterpart Joko Widodo this evening. John Key is in Indonesia for a 2-day visit with the Trade Minister, Todd McClay, and a business delegation. He says given a terrorist attack in Indonesia earlier this year and one last week in Nice, global security will be top of mind for the 2 leaders. He says every global leader is concerned at the moment about the rise of Islamic State.
And their capacity to sort of want to recruit these individual soldiers or supporters, if you like, anywhere around the world, and also the issue of returning foreign fighters. So both Indonesia and France potentially have quite large numbers of foreign fighters, and that presents an added complication for them.
John Key, who's now in Jakarta. The gunman who killed 3 United States law enforcement officers in the city of Baton Rouge had posted video messages complaining about the treatment of African Americans by police. The gunman has been identified as 29-year-old Gavin Long, a former United States Marine and Iraq veteran. Long also used the online alias of Cosmo and posted video messages on the internet calling for black men to make sacrifices for their race. He also called for black people to fight back through bloodshed. The shooting comes in the wake of widespread protests over the police killing of 2 black men and the attack on police in Dallas, in which 5 officers died. Police officers are liaising with embassies in New Zealand to try to identify the 3 foreigners who died in a crash on the desert road this morning. The police say their sedan crossed the centre line and collided with a truck about 7:30. The driver survived but is in a critical condition in Waikato Hospital's intensive care unit. Senior Sergeant Fane Troy says all are now aged in their mid-20s, but is not sure how they knew each other. Mr. Troy says the police are trying to contact next of kin, and he expects to be able to release their names tomorrow. He says the serious crash unit is investigating. In sport, flashbacks of the U.S. Open, which slipped from her grasp a week ago, taunted women's world golf #1 Lydia Ko as she battled for victory in the latest LPGA Tour event in Ohio. On her final 9 holes, Ko carded 2 bogeys and missed a birdie putt on the final hole, which would have given her the tournament. Instead, she had to play the 18th hole 4 more times in a sudden death playoff with the 2 other players. At the U.S. Open a week ago, Ko led during the final round only to slip to third, and she felt the same was about to happen again.
Was just kind of slipping slightly more and more away through the back 9, and I said, hopefully it's not like what happened a few weeks ago.
Meanwhile, Lydia Ko, Danny Lee and Ryan Fox have been named in the New Zealand Olympic golf team for Rio. Russia could face a complete Olympic ban as allegations of state-sponsored doping at the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics are proven. An independent commission set up by the World Anti-Doping Agency has been investigating the claims and is due to publish its findings tonight. Russian track and field athletes are banned from international competition, including the Rio Games, although individual athletes can compete as neutrals if they prove they're clean. The New Zealand driver and defending IndyCar Series champion Scott Dixon has finished 8th at the latest round in Toronto. Dixon is 4th in the overall driver standings. That's the news.